Welcome to Earnings Central. We are in conversation with the top management at TCS. A good set of numbers being delivered on Friday. Some concerns on the margin side. But joining us to talk us through what's actually moving in the business, what the outlook is, our first set of management representatives, Mr. S. Mahalingam, CFO at TCS, and also Mr. Ajay Mukherjee, Head of Global HR. Thank you both so much for coming in. Mr. Mahalingam, let me start with you. You know, there was a bit of concern on the margin side. I know you explained it in the conference call. You explained it to the press as well. But let me just start with that because that remains a bit of a pressure point in an otherwise good earnings release. So you're basically saying that there were two factors at play. One was the higher proportion of on-site work, and the other was the emerging market mix, which has shifted a bit. So let me start with the on-site. Was that a one-quarter thing? Was that specific projects that were ramping up in this quarter?
You know, they're all small factors. You know, all that you're trying to explain is something like 76 basis point at the operating margin level, and also, you know, so, and it was close to 27. You know, one can argue that 26.75 is not very far from 27. So this is the aspirational one. You can dice it in many ways. Certainly, some on-site small shift there, and so on. But I would like to look at it from a strategic point of view. We essentially looking at the year as a whole, and hopefully beyond that. And, you know, when the rupee is depreciated, you take certain strategic positions. You want to make sure that you become a full services player, which means that there has been a lot of emphasis on infrastructure management, BPO. Maybe in this quarter it did not grow, but if you look at it from an overall year-on-year sense, there has been nearly a 2% increase there, 2% increase as a revenue share in infrastructure management and so on. If you really take even this quarter, the extent of India business has gone up. And some of the contracts that we do are more complex contracts, which means that the equipment and software costs which went up. So there are many points. On-site is one. There has not been very much of a difference as far as employee costs are concerned. Equipment and software, there is another one that has really gone up. But it is also the question of the margins that I get in different jobs. Certainly, we talked about this diversified mix in terms of emerging markets, not just in India, but also in other centers like APAC, certainly South America, which are all the emerging markets. So strategic vision is to diversify our business, grow different kinds of services, so that we become a full services across all geography player.
That point is taken, sir, but I think the concern is that twofold concern. One, is there any upside left to margins? And two, could there be further downside? On the further downside, you've said that 27% is sort of the aspirational, the number that you'd like to work on. But if the mix continues to change, say, towards emerging markets, couldn't there be further downside pressure coming in? You know,
you take many of these calls when you can afford it, and when you're in a growth kind of phase and so on. And therefore, you know, there are two things that we take into consideration. One is, if I make an initiative or investment, how quickly does it turn to give me the type of margin that I want? You know, each of that, because there is a certain size that you need, and also a capability that we need to build up there. So that is one. And the second one is, what is it that you emphasize when the rupee is at, say, 46 or 48, and when the rupee is at 54? When you want to go to the existing customers, you want to make sure that you are playing in all the areas that they are outsourcing and so on. So we become a trusted player and so on. So what we have to do when rupee appreciates is to ensure that many of the initiatives that we have done delivers better margin. That's what we would work on. But you know, you essentially have all these strategic concerns at various points in time, and you make sure that you operate the right kind of levers to increase or invest in business.
But you don't think that there's a structural pressure on margins, not just for you, but also for the industry broadly speaking? Because then it's been argued that if demand environment is soft, you know, you've got to perhaps give up on a bit of margin.
The problem that will take place is when the pricing comes down.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.